Let's go in depth on this. There's a lot to get into. As you may have seen on social media, a Cleveland sports broadcaster named Bruce Drennan claimed the Browns were in trade talks for Dak Prescott. Here's what old Brucey boy had to say. I heard since our last show that the part of the reason Myles Garrett was so willing to sign this extension, the Browns are negotiating as we speak with the Dallas Cowboys for a Dak Prescott trade. And Garrett got all giddy about it. Greg Newsome is part of it, plus picks and draft picks going back to Dallas. And then Brucey boy also claimed that Dak might not be ready for training camp. It's honestly impressive to be wrong on so much in one statement. Dak is going to be ready for training camp. That has been debunked repeatedly. The idea of the Cowboys actually trading Dak Prescott to the Browns is as dumb as it sounds on the surface level as well. You might be going, who's Bruce? Allow me to explain. This is a Cleveland sports broadcaster who's done some, well, I guess they're the Guardians now, but back then they were the Indians. Cavs games. He is a sports talk radio guy, essentially. In 2004, these are all facts. Can't sue me, it's true. Meet me outside the Starbucks there, Bruce. Raided by the feds for sports gambling back in 2004. And then 2006, he spent 5 months in jail for false tax returns. I don't know why some of the most nonsense BS Cowboy stuff comes from sports people who serve time in jail. It's Bruce and Craig Carton, who, remember when Craig Carton claimed that Jerry was going to sell to the Saudis? Yeah, that was a real thing too. This obviously makes no sense. This should have failed every single smell test / 5 seconds of Google search. Should have been able to say, this doesn't make any sense at all. I honestly hate that I feel the need to point this out and to call out nonsense when I see it, because it shouldn't get to this point. Now, the correct answer here is 0, and I'll break down a lot of why it makes no sense. Because I do want to cite the sources, paper style, explain why it makes no sense, but percent chance it happened. It's 0, but you guys can vote in the comments of today's show. Look, we are 3 weeks removed from the Cowboys restructuring Dak Prescott's contract. It feels like it's been 3 months, by the way, with the offseason. It has been 3 weeks. This month, the Cowboys restructured Dak Prescott's contract. They turned $45.75 million of his base salary into a signing bonus to save $36.6 million in salary cap space. Before the Cowboys did that, there was $103 million in dead money if they tried to trade away Dak Prescott. With said restructure, the Cowboys have $148.32 million in dead money. With their restructure, if they were to trade away Dak Prescott right now or any time before June 1st and get the draft picks that Brucey Boy says they're going to acquire, the Cowboys lose $95 million of their current salary cap space. Even without the restructure, we're looking at $50 million in lost salary cap space. The Cowboys have around $35 million in cap space. That there is no, the Browns get money. No, it's not how it works. This is not the manipulatable part of the salary cap. The Cowboys literally cannot afford to do this. I mean, I guess they could if they were to restructure every single player, extend Micah, pay everything, push every chip in to not have a top 10 quarterback. Think critically when you're online, dude. When you're claiming stuff you hear on the inside. Oh, and by the way, Dak has a no-trade clause. Who the hell wants to go play for the Browns? He's going to accept that no-trade clause? He's going to waive it to go play in Cleveland? Come on. By the way, you don't just have to take my word for it. You can talk to any other Cowboys reporter out there who, I'll give, guys like Nick Harris and people like Jane Slater tip of the cap for being actual journalists and talking to other people there. Nick Harris tweeted this out. I really wish people would do a lick of research when they hear things like this. There are a million reasons why this would never work for both sides. As I pointed out, it's only 100 million reasons why it would never work out. I also thought Nick cooked on this one too. If we dug deep enough, we'd probably find a link between the source that put out the Dak to the Browns rumor and the one that Condoleezza Rice said would be interviewing for the Browns head coaching job in 2019. Remember that one? Yeah, kind of feels like the old fake plant to identify a mole type of deal. Jane also ran this down for us. I run it all down when working this beat, and the Cowboys are not working on trading Dak to the Browns. In fact, 2 sources tell me fake news and absolutely not before this gets any sort of wheels. He even got old boy Clarence Hill to bust out a cap gif, which I don't see Clarence use gifs that often, so I think that tells you how ridiculous the entire thing is. Kind of reminds me to an extent of like when the Commanders called about Patrick Mahomes, like, okay, come on, that's not going to happen. In the end of it, I think our school system has failed us. How we really lack this amount of critical thinking for this reporter, broadcaster to be like, yeah, this makes sense. Come on, man. Google's free. Like, just use it. Or just don't lie. Pick one. Either woefully ignorant or intentionally stupid. Neither are great. Now, we will have more Cowboys videos for you here on the channel. We have the contract details finally for all the players that have signed, so we'll break that down on Thursday's live show. Hit the sub button so you don't miss out. YouTube.com/@CowboysTV. Now, even before the Browns trade nonsense, which this would then fall into like the Cowboys take Shedeur at 2 or whatever, because you get the chance to cripple your salary cap and get worse at quarterback, you got to do it, right? The Shadur Sanders to the Cowboys speculation returned, and really in large part because the Giants signed Russell Wilson. That might not be a fit for Shedeur anymore. Our old buddy Des Bryant said he gets the feeling Shadur Sanders might end up being a Cowboy. I love Des. I need to clarify that because sometimes people get mad at me. He has zero inside information. Like, that's not who Des is. He's just a fan, and that's fun. And look, there is a real chance that Shadur Sanders is on the board at pick number 12. That is a possibility. Because think about where the previous Sanders landing spots have been. Who knows what the Browns are going to do? Maybe they trade for Kirk Cousins. That wouldn't be overly shocking. They're at number 2. Well, they're not going to trade for Kirk because Kirk doesn't want it if they draft Shedeur, so that's kind of up in the air. Giants have Russ and Jameis Winston. Maybe they could go Shedeur, but who's to say? The Raiders haven't extended Geno Smith yet, so maybe you can't cross that one out, but T-Mac or Ashton Genty seem to make some more sense there. I know Jordan Reed of ESPN has mentioned the Jets. They also did sign Justin Fields. The Saints restructured Derek Carr, but they didn't have to do that. They chose to. They could have made it work otherwise. And then you get kind of down like Pittsburgh at 21 is like your next realistic fit. Seattle, maybe. Crazy like Tampa. Like, there is a chance that if Shedeur doesn't go 2 or 3, we get that Aaron Rodgers, that Brady Quinn style slide in round 1. I think it's also very telling that all of these teams that like all these different mock drafts are like, Shedeur slides, destinations of Shedeur slides. None of them pick the Dallas Cowboys. And then there's reasons for that. Dak Prescott is under contract for 4 more years at very expensive figures, by the way. And the 4 years aspect, I think, does matter. The timing just doesn't really make any sense. If Dak had 2 years left on his contract, I think this would be a very different conversation. Because then you're thinking, okay, short-term backup, long-term solution, but the timing doesn't work when it's 4 years. Like, you don't get any of the benefits from the rookie scale contract if you take one now. And the next part, by the way, is, I admit it's a bit reductive, but I do think it is important to consider. If all of, in this hypothetical scenario, he's there at 12, all of these quarterback-desperate teams go, no, we actually don't want Shedeur, isn't that an indication that, hey, maybe you don't want him either? That he's not actually the caliber of quarterback you're searching for to find an actual upgrade and or long-term solution over Dak Prescott. That, we'll talk about this more in depth, have to consider that. So would you draft Shadur Sanders at number 12 overall? Y for yes, N for no. So this one, there's like the 0% chance, whatever, for the Dak Browns nonsense there. So I guess at least 1% chance. It's Jerry is kind of the main argument I always hear. Let me know in the comments of today's show. Now, in general, when it comes to quarterbacks, if you believe that a quarterback you have evaluated is a future top 10 guy, he's going to be a superstar, he's going to be a franchise QB for 10 to 15 years, you take that guy. If you think this guy can be your Lamar Jackson, your Josh Allen, your upper tier echelon level quarterback, you take him. It's a no-brainer. That's not what Shadur Sanders is. That doesn't mean he's not a good quarterback prospect, but the profile of what Shadur Sanders is not Josh Allen. It's not Lamar Jackson. Frankly, I've yet to see good, real football reasons for taking Shedeur at 12 if you're specifically the Dallas Cowboys. Now, if you didn't have Dak under contract and you're desperate and you got to find someone to be a top 15 QB, then I think Shedeur does make a lot of sense for you. I get reminders of Teddy Bridgewater, who I like to lop. So I don't have that dissimilar grades from Cam Ward and Shadur Sanders. Neither guy is a round one grade for me, though. I get like righty Tua. Right offense, proper supporting cast, he can have success. I think he can be a starting caliber NFL QB. But I don't need a starting caliber QB right now in the NFL. I have one. I have a really good one, despite what some of the haters and losers might think. It's perfectly fine. And frankly, the Cowboys should have the conversation of, what do we do if Shedeur's there at 12? You do it for every single player. You stack them on your board in advance, right? You have them all in there. It's fine to have that conversation. But the valid reasons for it don't really exist. Frankly, I want the quarterbacks to go early. The dream scenario for Dallas, which I think never really made a lot of sense in terms of realism, is Cam Ward, Shadur Sanders, Jackson Dart all go in the top 11 picks. And somebody else gets pushed down pretty nicely, and you get a great player as a result. Shedeur in Dallas, with the way your team is built, just doesn't make any sense. That made it to the end of the video. Thank you. We appreciate you guys. Help us out even more by liking today's show.